We're actually going to pick up where I want you to open your books to. It's around 178, 79. I'm just going to very briefly mention the chapter The Boggart in the Wardrobe. And it was one of the quiz questions. Why doesn't Lupin ask Harry to confront the Boggart?
Because he was going to turn into a Dementor.
No, not because he thinks it'll turn into Dementor. He thinks it'll be Voldemort, and it wouldn't be good to have Voldemort, roaming around in the classroom. Why does he think the Boggart will become the Dementor? What's the Boggart going to do for anybody? What does the Boggart become for Ron? Great big spider. What does it become for Neville? Snape. Okay. So it kind of it embodies your worst fear. Lupin assumes Harry's worst fear is what? Something having to do with Voldemort. Right? Harry's going to tell him later, well, no, it actually probably would have been a Dementor. And he's like, way to go. That's you're more afraid of a Dementor than you are afraid of Voldemort. He says, that shows that the thing he fears most is what? Fear. Okay. Now, the charm that they use to get rid of the Boggart, and by the way, J.K. Rowling does not invent the idea of Boggarts. That's an old Scottish / Celtic belief. Okay. What's the charm they use to get rid of it? The ridiculous. So you take that fear and you mentally put on it what? Yeah, something that'll make you laugh. So what does Neville do to Snape? And notice, Neville doesn't do that entirely on his own. How does Neville know to do that to Snape? Lupin tells him. Okay, so he says, Neville says it's going to take the form of Snape. He goes, okay. And you live with your grandmother, right? How does Lupin reply? Yes, but I don't want it to turn into her either. Okay. He goes, no, you misunderstand me. So what does he suggest Neville should do? Take your grandmother's clothes and put that on Snape. Do you think, just by chance, what Lupin said might make its back to Snape's ears? Probably. After all, every other year in Defense Against the Dark Arts class, what two groups have been in the class together? Slytherins and Gryffindors. Okay. And Malfoy is such a blanker, something kisser, that he would probably tell Snape. Okay. Not the best way to build professorial camaraderie, let's say. So, Hermione also doesn't get to confront the Boggart. But they both get points for their house, and Harry's like, didn't do anything. Well, sure you did, Harry. You answered the question right. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't get points for that. That should be, So, actually, take that back. We're not going to pick up where I said we are. We're going to pick up in, yes, we are. Sorry, my book opened to where I didn't want it to. Grim defeat. Where did I say? 68, 69? It's the Quidditch match. And
the end of the Quidditch match is 78, 78.
Yeah, that's where it is. Harry's up there competing against Hufflepuff. Who does everybody assume is going to win? I mean, it's kind of implied. It's going to be Gryffindor. Because, they're Gryffindors. They're not Hufflepuffs. Next to Slytherin, what's the quote-unquote worst house to be in? It's Hufflepuffs. Why?
Because they're kind of dopey.
Okay. What does Hagrid refer to them as? When Harry first meets them, and they're talking about the different houses, Hagrid calls them duffers. Okay? Kind of like doofuses. But duffers just mean people who just kind of plod along, barely get by in life. We're going to see whether or not that's true. Okay? So, towards the end of the chapter, Harry's flying. It's Quidditch match. He takes his eyes off the snitch, page 178, and looks down, and there's what? At least 100 Dementors down on the ground, looking up at him. Okay? Hidden faces pointing up at him. It was as though freezing water were rising in his chest, cutting at his insides, and he hears voices. Someone screaming. Not Harry, please, not Harry. Stand aside, you silly girl, stand aside now. Not Harry, please, no, take me, kill me instead. And Harry, the last thing he hears before he hits, not Harry, please, have mercy, have mercy. Okay? He goes off to the hospital wing. He asks for his Nimbus 2000, and it gets brought to him in little teeny tiny pieces. Okay? Well, later on it does. So we get to the chapter of the Marauder's map. And defense against the dark arts. Lupin's back. He missed the previous lesson. Why? But we don't know that. He was ill. Okay? And who got to sub? Snape did. What did Snape require of them in that previous class? Big, long essay, 2 rolls of parchment on werewolves. Okay? Page 185. We don't know anything about werewolves. 2 rolls of parchment. Did you tell Professor Snape we haven't covered them yet? Yes, but he said we were really behind. He wouldn't listen. Don't worry. I'll speak to Snape. You don't have to do the essay. Okay? Hermione, she's already done it. Now, that's kind of interesting because we have Snape sub for Lupin, and Snape assigns him 2 rolls of parchment on werewolves. Later in the book, and I don't think I've got it marked, Lupin assigns them an essay. Anybody know on what? Vampires. Okay? I think I've mentioned before, at the end of the first book, Rowling every now and then throws out these crumbs, throws out these little hints that Snape is a vampire. He's not. He's not. You get to the end of the 7th book, we find out he's not. She says in interviews he's not. They are just that. They're little crumbs. They're meant to mislead us. Okay? So, they have class. Class finishes. Harry sticks around. And he asks, page 187, why do they affect me like that? Dementors. Why do I pass out? Okay? Nothing to do with weakness. It's like he's reading Harry's mind. It's not like he probably is reading Harry's mind. The Dementors affect you worse than the others because there are horrors in your past that the others don't have. All right? And then he goes on and describes Dementors. Among the foulest creatures that walk this earth, they infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. Even muggles feel their presence. See Book 5. And Book 6, beginning. Though they can't see them, get too near a Dementor, every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you. If it can, the Dementor will feed on you long enough to reduce you to something like itself, soulless and evil. How? Because it'll give you the Dementor's kiss, which literally does what? Sucks the soul out of your body. Okay? Harry, when they get near me, I can hear Voldemort murdering my mom. Lupin says they're hungry. Says, some of them are kind of glad they're not at Azkaban. Harry says Azkaban must be terrible. Lupin talks a little bit about it. Harry says, yeah, but Sirius Black escaped from it. He got away. He must have found a way to fight them. I wouldn't have believed it possible. Dementors are supposed to drain a wizard of his powers if he's left with them. Harry, yeah, but you made that Dementor back off. How did you do that? I said, well, there are things you can do. Teach me! So, he agrees. Okay, we're going to skip a bit. Hogsmeade weekend. Harry doesn't get a go, right? He didn't get the form signed. Notice he did ask Fudge to sign it. Fudge says, I can't do that. He's like the frickin' president. Of course he can sign it if he wants to. Okay? But he just doesn't. Why? It doesn't fit the plot. got to be something else. So Harry's kind of moaning, whining. And Fred and George come up to Harry, page 191, and they give him something. They hand him a piece of parchment. This, they say, Harry, is the secret of our success. We decided last night your need's greater than ours. Okay? So, Harry's like, what do I want with a bit of old parchment? They show him how the parchment works. They tap it. I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. And it appears, Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, purveyors of aids to magical mischief makers, are proud to present the Marauder's Map. Take my Harry Potter course in London. I'm doing it this summer. You do well here. You're almost assured of an A there. And go to the Warner Brothers studio tour. It's not like Orlando. It's the real Warner Brothers studio tour with all of the real props, everything. So you have the real Marauder's Map. You've got all the Daily Prophets. You've got the real Black Family tapestry with burn marks in it. I mean, they actually wove a tapestry, and then they actually took cigarettes or cigars up and burned out the names, etc. It's about the size of that wall. It's mind blowing. Okay, you can see the real Marauder's Map, even though you don't see names. Anyways, it shows Harry all the passages of the school. Okay. So Fred and George talk to him about it, how it works. So what does Harry now have? He's got an invisibility cloak, and he has the directions. Use it well. And Dumbledore said, your father used to use it to go, steal food from the kitchens. Now he has not only that, but he has a secret map to all the entrances and exits to Hogwarts and all the hidden, rooms, chambers, etc., etc. But he's also thinking of Mr. Weasley, page 194. Never trust anything that can think for itself if you can't see where it keeps its brain. Harry asks, who are Moontail? I was going to say Wormy. Who are Wormtail, Mooney, Padfoot, and Prongs? He doesn't know. Do Fred and George? Nope. He trusted something he read the previous book. A map is what? It's something you read. Okay? Should he have trusted what he read in the previous book? No. Should he trust this? He is going to get in trouble, right? So, he takes the Marauder's Map, and he goes off to Hogsmeade. And he goes into the three broomsticks, meets up with Ron and Hermione. Okay. And it's Christmas time. So Hermione moves the Christmas tree so that it's kind of closer to him because Harry wants to take off the invisibility cloak. And who comes in that chapter? Fudge, McGonagall, Hagrid, Flitwick, and they sit down at a little table nearby and they start to chat. Who comes over and chats with them? Madame Rosmerta, the barmaid. Okay, this is an example of where we are shown. Rowling doesn't just pull words out of thin air. Rosmerta is the name of a Celtic goddess. A goddess of hospitality, a goddess ultimately of beer. Okay? She pours drinks, right? And there's Madame Rosmerta. So they're sitting there, they're listening, and what do they hear? They hear Fudge, McGonagall, Hagrid, Flitwick, Madame Rosmerta talk about Sirius Black. Now, what has Harry already heard about Sirius Black? That he's after Harry. Who told him that? Mr. Weasley. After he'd already overheard that. Okay. What else has he heard about Sirius Black?
He killed 13 people.
Killed 13. Well, he's going to hear that here in this scene. He read a little bit about him in the Daily Prophet on the night bus that he escaped. Okay. He heard a little bit about him from the television back at number 4 Privet Drive, where we saw his image. And what did Uncle Vernon say about him? Well, of course you can tell he's no good. Look at him, the layabout. Long, stringy hair, sallow, hollowed face. He's been in, prison for years. Okay. But an awful lot of what Harry has heard about Sirius Black turns out, obviously, to be what?
False.
Yeah, it's wrong. Okay? So now he's going to hear these people talk about him. Now, who are these people? Cornelius Fudge, Minister of Magic. If anybody should know the truth, he should. Okay? And they're talking about an escaped convict. Don't you think this kind of topic, I don't know, where would this be talked about, let's say, among members of our government?
Secret room.
Yeah. Behind closed doors, not in a bar. Because that's essentially where they are. This is just a bar where underage people can also come in. Okay?
Does butterbeer actually have alcohol in it?
Not in this world it doesn't. It's like it gives you a little buzz, but it's like an alcohol-less virgin drink.
Because when he said it filled him with heat, that seemed like...
Well, it got that goblin drunk in book 5.
Or, yeah, the house elf.
House
Yeah,
elf,
but
right?
they explain that it has a different effect on
House elves. Yeah, I don't think it is actually. I don't think it does actually have an alcohol content, but I could be wrong there. Okay, so what do we overhear them talking about? Sirius Black and James Potter were best of friends. Okay, Flitwick, you'd have thought they were brothers. Okay, and that's when Fudge goes on. They named him Sirius, godfather to Harry. Harry has no idea, of course. You can imagine how the idea would torment him. Madame Rosmerta asks why. Because Black was in league? Fudge, worse than even that. And he kind of lowers his voice. And goes on and talks about the Fidelius charm. Black was secret keeper, they say. Okay. Peter Pettigrew was brought up. And we're told that Sirius killed a bunch of people, page 209. Fudge says, after he says Black was taken away by 20 members of magical law enforcement, she says, is he mad? Says, I wish I could say that he was. I certainly believe his master's defeat unhinged him for a while. The murder of Pettigrew, all those muggles, was the action of a cornered and desperate man, cruel, pointless. I met Black on my last inspection of Azkaban. Most of the prisoners in there sit muttering to themselves in the dark, no sense in them. But I was shocked at how normal Black seemed. Ask for my newspaper, he says. Okay. Well, she asks, why did he break out? What does he want? And they all leave. And Hermione's like, Harry. We go off to the next chapter. He gets back to Hogwarts. Page 213. He goes to his room. He goes to bed. He looks at the pictures Hagrid's given him. He's thinking of Sirius Black, because there is Sirius Black right in the picture of his parents' wedding day. Ron comes in. Harry lays still, pretends to be asleep. He's just thinking of Sirius Black. Next morning, Harry, you look horrible. Okay? Everybody's gone. It's first day of Christmas break. Harry says, I'm fine. Hermione, Harry, listen, you must be really upset about what you heard, page 214. Yeah, really. You think, Hermione? No. But don't do anything stupid. Like what? Like going after Black. You won't, will you? Ron, he's not worth dying for. Harry, you know what I see whenever Dementors come around? And they're like, no. I can hear my mom screaming and pleading with Voldemort. Notice he says the name, by the way. And if you heard your mom screaming like that, just about to be killed, you wouldn't forget it in a hurry. So, they try to convince Harry, yeah, but you're not going to do anything stupid, right? Harry says Malfoy knows. That's why he said the thing, in potions. If it was me, I'd hunt him down myself. I'd want revenge. So you're going to take Malfoy's word? Okay. So, they come up with the idea of going and talking to Hagrid. Meanwhile, what's been going on with Hagrid? Hagrid's now a teacher, right? And he brought in Buckbeak one day for a class lesson. First day. And what happens with Buckbeak?
Barely touches.
Yeah, Buckbeak barely touches Malfoy. Okay. But he does get a cut. And Malfoy, nearly faints. Now, they get down to Hagrid's, page 217, because Malfoy lodged a complaint, and Hagrid's crying. Dear Mr. Hagrid, further to our inquiry into the attack by a hippogriff on a student in your class, we have accepted the assurances of Professor Dumbledore. You bear no responsibility for the regrettable incident. Ron's like, well, that's good. He keeps reading. However, we must register our concern about the hippogriff in question. We have decided to uphold the official complaint of Mr. Lucius Malfoy, and this matter will therefore be taken to the Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures. Notice the name of the committee. It's not the Committee for the Investigation of Dangerous. It's your creature gets brought up to this committee, it's a goner. Okay? Ron says, but you said Buckbeak isn't a bad hippogriff. He'll get off. Hagrid, you don't know them gargoyles at the Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures. They've got an interesting, like Aragog, real interesting creature. Okay? So, they notice Buckbeak is lying in the corner, chomping on something, oozing blood all over the floor. Hagrid, I couldn't leave him tied up out there in the snow all on his own. And at Christmas, like Buckbeak knows what Christmas is, So, they keep talking, and Ron offers to make some tea. Hagrid says he's not been himself. He's been worried about Buckbeak. And he describes to them Azkaban, top of 221. You can't really remember who you are after a while, and you can see the point of living at all. I used to hope I'd just die in my sleep. When they let me out, it was like being born again, and everything comes flooding back. It was the best feeling in the world. Mind, the Dementors weren't keen, Hermione, but you were innocent. Did Hagrid have a trial? No. You think that matters to them? They don't care, as long as they've got a couple hundred humans, etc., etc. The trip to Hagrid's, bottom of that page, though far from fun, had nevertheless had the effect Ron and Hermione had hoped. Okay, what was going on in Harry's mind before they went down? Okay, he wanted to confront Hagrid about not telling the truth. Before that, just before that, let's say, what was he thinking about Sirius Black? I want to kill him. Okay. Then he thinks about Hagrid. Hagrid never told me. Hagrid should have told me. What frame of mind is Harry in toward Hagrid when he goes down? When he leaves the castle and goes down to Hagrid's hut. What does he want to give Hagrid? A piece of his mind. Okay. Why? What's Harry focused on? His pain, his sorrow, his anger. All of his attention is turned inward. Okay? He goes down, he sees Hagrid, he reads the letter, and what happens? Though Harry had by no means forgotten about Black, he couldn't brood constantly on revenge if he wanted to help Hagrid win his case. Why can't he brood on revenge if he wants to help Hagrid? What's another way of describing helping Hagrid? What's Harry's relationship with Hagrid? Friends. What does friendship involve? I know we don't use it very often because it's, mushy. Love. It involves love. Okay? Does Harry love Harry? Yeah, he does. He's kind of like a crazy uncle. Or a good uncle. Right? He can't be full of revenge and love simultaneously. He can't be full of love, and what is revenge? In order to seek revenge on someone, what must you feel towards that person? You must feel anger and hatred. You can't feel them both simultaneously. One's got to win. Which wins? Love wins. Love wins. Okay? This is going to be really important when we especially get to book 7. So what happens? They go to the library and they try to figure out ways to help Hagrid. Okay? Christmas comes. Harry gets presents again. And included in the presents is the firebolt. Page 223. Big, long, narrow thing. Rips it open. I don't believe it. It's a firebolt. Just like the one he drooled over back in Diagon Alley. Okay? So, what happens to his firebolt? Why? Because Hermione opens her big mouth and tells McGonagall, who says it might be cursed. This might be Sirius Black's way of getting at you. Okay, they go down to Christmas dinner. We see a bit of interaction between McGonagall and Trelawney. What do they think of each other? Claws her out, man. Trelawney, implies that she's foreseen everything. And McGonagall's like, shut up, Sybil, and sit down. I mean, it's clear. She does not respect Sybil Trelawney. She shows respect for every other professor. Even Snape, McGonagall shows respect for. She doesn't show Sybil Trelawney any respect. Okay? Next chapter, Patronus. Harry asks Lupin again about anti-Dementor lessons, and he gives them. So page 237. Lupin tells him about the Patronus chart. How does it work? Well, it conjures up a Patronus, kind of an anti-Dementor, a guardian that acts as a shield. Harry thinks of, something like Hagrid, big giant thing. Okay, so notice the Patronus, an anti-Dementor. So if it's an anti-Dementor, anti-D, cross each other, it's a mentor. It's something that does what? It builds up. It encourages. Okay? What's it look like? Unique to the person who conjures it. How do you conjure it? Incantation. What's incantation? Come on. Let's get to it. Okay? So, what are the magical words? Expecto Patronum. X, out of. Pect, like pectoral muscles, out of the chest. O, I expect from where? From inside. I seek from inside. Okay? What? A Patronum. A Defendor. An anti-Dementor. Okay? Where do we see the word or a word related to Patronum in modern English? Because we don't talk about patronums. We don't talk about patronuses. We hear patron, like a patron of the arts, okay, or a patron saint. Patron of the arts and patron saints, those are two different things, though. A patron of the arts does what? Pays for them. Supports the arts with monetary gifts. A patron saint isn't somebody, if you're Jewish, like you go and you slip a prayer into the Western Wall. It doesn't buy you a patron saint. What's a patron saint do? Lots of Catholics wear St. Christopher medals. What is it for? so that St. Christopher will protect you. That person is what? The patron is a defender, protector, savior, deliverer. All those words. Okay? And there's the one, I just wish she had not done this, because it Disneyfies this idea. And how do you conjure up the Patronum? You say the magical words and have your little happy thought. Get your little pixie dust. You know, it's almost like. So what's Harry's happy thought? We don't know yet. So he tries it, and there's a little wisp of silvery stuff. So Lupin says, all right, you ready? I mean, this is going to be it now. Opens the box, out pops, not a Boggart, the Dementor. Harry, expecto, notice he's yelling. Why is he yelling?
Trying to force it out.
Yeah, he's trying to force it. He hears, not Harry, please, I'll do anything. Stand aside, silly girl, stand aside. Lupin, you okay? Yeah. Gives him a chocolate frog. Harry, it's getting worse. I could hear her louder that time. If you don't want to continue, Harry, no, I've got to do it. He goes, okay, come on, Harry, better happy memory, a happier memory. He thought hard, deciding his feelings when Gryffindor had won the house championship last year. Yeah, that's a good thought. Lily, take Harry and go. The tape has been rewound even more. This is before Dumbledore. Voldemort even breaks into the house. Take Lily, take Harry and go. It's him. Go, run. I'll hold him off. Okay? Sounds of someone stumbling from a room, a door bursting open, a cackle of high-pitched laughter. I heard my dad. First time I've ever heard him. He tried to take on Voldemort himself to give my mom time to run for it. Lupin, you heard James? Well, you didn't know my dad. Yeah, friends, Hogwarts, same year. Yeah, we shouldn't be doing this. This isn't good. Why not? Well, he doesn't want his dad. He doesn't want Harry to hear too much of his dad. He goes, no, I can do this. Okay. So what's his new happy thought? When he found out he's a wizard, leave the Dursleys. That'll work. Screaming started, but now it gets softer. And it halts. The Dementor stops. Something huge and silver comes out of his wand. Lupin, way to go, Harry. Excellent. That was definitely a start. Can we do it again? Not now. Okay. So if you knew my dad, you must have known Sirius Black. What gives you that idea? Sorry, they were friends. Yes, I knew him. Thought I did. Okay. So Harry goes off to his room, and what does he think? Terrible though it was to hear his parents' last moments replayed inside his head. These were the only times Harry had heard their voices since he was a very small child. But he'd never be able to produce a proper Patronus if he half wanted to hear his parents again. Notice what we're being told. He does half want to hear his parents again. They're dead, he tells himself. They're dead, and listening to echoes of them won't bring them back. Now, these are echoes, right? Because these are things that are in Harry's mind. Okay? Let's go on a bit more. Harry asks, continuing, a few pages on. Harry asks Lupin about what Dementors do if they actually get close to you. It's the kiss. And he explains what happens. And Harry says about Sirius Black, bottom of 247, he deserves it. Lupin, you think so? You really think anyone deserves that? Harry, yeah, for some things. All right. Now, we could jump to the end. Because is Harry going to take Peter Pettigrew up to the school so that he can be handed over to the Dementors? No. He takes him up to the school for what reason? So he can have a trial. Okay? Yet here he said, Sirius Black, some people, yeah, that's what they skip justice. Okay? So, Gryffindor, we can skip most of that. Go on to. Let's see here. Snape's grudge. Harry, Ron, Hermione get a letter from Harry and Ron get a letter from Hagrid. Says, you can't go out by yourself, but he wants to meet with them. And we find out Buckbeak lost his case. And Harry, let's pick up there. 278-79. Harry goes off to Hogsmeade. He's not supposed to go off to Hogsmeade. He has his invisibility cloak on. He sees Malfoy. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are leaving. He sees Malfoy, and Malfoy smarts off at Ron. And Harry just has to get back to him, at him. But he accidentally lets the cloak fall so that his head shows. Just his head floating after he's hit Malfoy with a handful of mud. He runs as fast as he can back to Hogwarts, and he gets caught by Snape. Snape takes him to his office, pages 282 and 83. And Snape says, Mr. Malfoy has just been to see me with a strange story, Potter. Harry's silent. Tells me he was up by the Shrieking Shack when he ran into Weasley, apparently alone. He states he was standing talking to Weasley when a large amount of mud hit him in the back of the head. How do you think that happened? Mr. Malfoy also said he saw an extraordinary apparition. Know what it was? No, it was your head, Potter. Harry, maybe he better go see Madame Pomfrey. I mean, if he's seeing things. Snape says he wasn't seeing things. Turn out your pockets. So Harry pulls out everything out of his pockets. And Snape says, 284, how extraordinarily like your father you are. He too was exceedingly arrogant. Small amount of talent on the Quidditch field made him think he was a cut above the rest of us. Okay, was it a small amount of talent? No, he was good. Strutting around the place with his friends and admirers, the resemblance between you is uncanny. Harry, my dad didn't strut. Well, he doesn't really know that, right? What does he learn in book 5? His dad did strut, like a rooster. Cocky little arrogant SOB, okay? So, Snape keeps egging him on until Harry finally says, shut up. Lupin shows up. And after Harry gives Snape the parchment, Snape thinks there's something magical about it. He commands the parchment to speak, and the parchment speaks, page 287. Mr. Mooney presents his compliments to Professor Snape and begs him to keep his abnormally large nose out of other people's business. Snape freezes Harry's leg. Oh, damn. Mr. Prongs agrees with Mr. Mooney, would like to add that Professor Snape is an ugly kid. Mr. Padfoot would like to register his astonishment that an idiot like that ever became a professor, and Mr. Wormtail bids Professor Snape good day and advises him to wash his hair, the slime ball. Snape's, ready to kill. Lupin comes in at that point when Snape calls him. How does Lupin explain the piece of paper or parchment? Snape thinks it's what? Powerful dark magic. Lupin says it's something, Harry got from Zonkos. One of his friends got it for him. Okay? So Harry and Lupin leave. And Lupin says, 289, I happen to know this map was confiscated by Mr. Filch many years ago. Yes, I know it's a map. Because what does the yes, I know it's a map mean? As Harry and Ron looked amazed, eyes got really big. I don't want to know how it fell into your possession. I am, however, astounded you didn't hand it in. Particularly after what happened the last time a student left information about the castle lying around. Who was that student? Neville. What was the information? Password to the Gryffindor common room. What happened as a result?
Snape got in.
No,
I mean, it's not serious.
Sirius got in. Sir Gadigan got all, slashed and everything. Okay. Actually, Ron's room, curtains on his bed. Sorry. So, Lupin says, "Don't expect me to cover up for you again, Harry. I cannot make you take Sirius Black seriously." Little pun there. But I would have thought that what you have heard when the Dementors draw near you would have had more effect on you. Your parents gave their lives to keep you alive, Harry. Poor way to repay them. Gambling their sacrifice for a bag of magic tricks. In other words, you're willing to sacrifice the sacrifice of your parents for a few hours fun? Wow. Now, you could say, guilt manipulation, yeah, and pretty darn good at it, right? Quidditch final. Why do we even have this chapter? What's the purpose of it? It's so that we can see Harry do a Patronus charm. That's it. That's the whole purpose. Against what he thinks are Dementors, right? But they're not Dementors. Who is it? And
Was it Flint too?
Flint. Sorry, I was going to say Flinch, but I knew there was nobody named that. Yeah, Oliver. Not Oliver. Marcus Flint. Oliver is Oliver Wood. Okay. Yeah, I mean they're dressed up as these Dementors. That's the reason Harry's able to do it. They're not real Dementors. He thinks they're real Dementors, so now he's done it, right? So he's actually created a Dementor. This is important because, practice makes perfect kind of a thing. Okay? Louder?
Patronus, you said created a dimension.
Yeah, sorry. Patronus. Sorry, lack of sleep. Trelawney's prediction. He goes off. It's testing time. What is Trelawney's prediction specifically?
Servant of the Dark Lord would appear before midnight? After midnight?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the exact page.
Around midnight.
Sometime in the
Page 324. It will happen tonight. Harry's like, huh? Wakes up. Trelawney had gone rigid. Her eyes were unfocused, mouth sagging. Sorry. The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. His servant has been chained these 12 years. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again with the servant's aid, greater or more terrible than ever he was. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will set out to rejoin his master. Okay. Harry tells her what she said. She's like, don't be preposterous. So, they find out Hagrid lost his appeal. They go down. They discover Scabbers. They leave, and you hear the thump of the axe hitting the wood, and they think Buckbeak's a goner. Okay? They've discovered Scabbers. Scabbers runs. Ron goes after Scabbers. All hell breaks loose, right? Cat, rat, and dog. The Grim finally shows up. And they go through the Whomping Willow to where? The Shrieking Shack. Pick up with 338. They get there. They see Ron lying on a 4-poster bed. Ron, are you okay? Where's the dog? No, the dog. Harry, trap. He's the dog. He's an animagus. And there's Gary Oldman, sitting over there. So he takes their wands from them, and there's some talking going on, which I'm going to skip. Let's see here. 341. Ron throws himself on Black's wand hand. Harry goes after Black first. Ron throws himself on Black's wand hand, so he drops the wand, etc. They overpower him, and we see Black was sprawled at the bottom of the wall. His thin chest rose and fell rapidly as he watched Harry walking slowly nearer, his wand pointing straight at Black's heart. Going to kill me, Harry? You killed my parents, And if this were an egg in Montoya, prepare to die.
Yeah.
But I don't deny it, but if you knew the whole story. In other words, Don't kill me yet. The whole story, you sold them to Voldemort. It's all I need to know. Sirius is like, nope, it's not. Got to tell you more. To hear more noises, Sirius says, we're up. Hermione yells out, we're up here. Lupin comes in. Bottom of 343. Where is he, Sirius? Sirius points at Ron. But then, why hasn't he shown before now? Now, how did Lupin know Wormtail was there? He saw him on the Marauder's map. Okay. Hermione assumes Lupin and Black have been working in cahoots with each other, which they haven't. Harry says, you've been helping him all the time. Lupin says, nope. He says, let me explain. Okay. They talk about Harry's father's old invisibility cloak. How do you know about the cloak? 347, Lupin. Number of times I saw James disappearing under it. Even if you're wearing an invisibility cloak, you still show up on the Marauder's map. How can that be? With the description of the invisibility cloak that we get in later novels, it provides what? Impenetrable concealment, we're told. Unless you have a Marauder's map. No, that part's not said in the later books. Who came up with the Marauder's map? When? After they became Animagi. 50 years. 50 years can, quote unquote, confound or confund. Is it just any old invisibility cloak, folks? No, it's the invisibility cloak. This is an aspect of what I've been talking about. You know, she creates this world. She doesn't, at the beginning, create the world with all the laws and everything she's going to have in the world. She adds to these as she writes. But as she writes, she doesn't go back and reread or doesn't have fully in her mind everything she's been saying all along.
There was also something else that I wanted to bring up. The shrinking solution turned the toad into a tadpole and not into a smaller toad.
Okay. Yeah, but, I mean...
That would be more like age reversal than shrinking.
Okay, yeah, I see that point. I would quibble maybe more on her favor there, saying, okay, she's not using shrinking, just merely size, but, you know, probably shrinking in time kind of thing. But I see your point.
I was going to say that James knows. He probably knows what he has. He probably knows his family history and knows what that cloak does. And he's also the creator of the map.
Okay.
So, like...
Okay, let me ask you this. Some of you haven't read these yet. There's no evidence that suggests James knows the history of the cloak. Nothing.
Would he not know his family history?
There's no evidence that he knows that.
Well, I mean...
This is the reason why Dumbledore has it when he dies. Because Dumbledore is trying to figure out the history of the cloak. Okay. Let's leave that for later. Okay. So... Lupin says what happens, okay, and they tell the kids that Scabbers is actually an animagus. Harry and Ron says, you guys are mental. Hermione, that's ridiculous. How do they prove it? They pull out their wands, they point it at the rat, and they say, change. Reveal yourself, and it does, okay? Now, what did Peter Pettigrew do? We're going to find out, because I'm going to have to jump quickly. What did Peter Pettigrew do when he killed those muggles?
His fingers turned into a rat and
Yeah,
disappeared.
he also chopped off a finger. Okay, how did Sirius know Peter Pettigrew was still alive? When he asked Fudge for the newspaper, which newspaper was it? It's the one with the Weasleys on the cover. celebrating their winning the Gringotts thing where they got 700 galleons. And what did they do? They went off to Egypt.
Yeah.
And there's Ron with Scabbers in his pocket with his little paws sitting out. And what does Sirius start to say? He's at Hogwarts. He's at Hogwarts. He's at Hogwarts. Everybody assumes that he is Harry. It's not Harry. It's Scabbers, a.k.a. Peter Pettigrew. Okay? So, Mooney tells them about his transformations as a werewolf. Says they were pretty terrible. And your father and Sirius and Wormtail became Animagi. In what year did they become Animagi? Their 5th year. Okay? What kind of magic is that? And it's pretty damn advanced magic. Okay? Even Pettigrew mastered it. All right? So, why did they become Animagi?
Because werewolves don't attack.
Okay? So they could go be with Lupin during what? During his time of the month, so to speak. Well, what does that show on their part?
They're really nice.
This is an expression of love, because,
Best friends, like.
does that make it easier for Lupin? Does it remove the pain of transforming into... No, it doesn't remove the pain. It just means he now has companions. Okay? What removes the pain? What stops the transformations? The Wolfsbane potion. Who has been faithfully giving that to him all year long?
Snape.
Mixed perfectly. He's going to tell Harry this. You can cut Snape some slack, man. Okay? So, Snape shows up, being the jerk that he is. And Harry, once again, blows up at him. Page 361. You're pathetic, he says. Just because they made a fool of you at school, you won't even listen. I will not be talking to you like that. Get out of the way, Potter. And Harry, Ron, and Hermione all use Expelliarmus on. Okay? Now notice, you're pathetic just because they made a fool of you at school, you won't even listen. How does Harry know they made a fool of him at school? Louder?
Sirius told him what happened about going to find Lupin.
Okay. Sirius told them about that. Who else has told them? Dumbledore said your father stopped
Saved his life.
Snape, saved his life. Doesn't mean they made a fool out of him. Okay. But the thing about Sirius, it's playing a practical joke. Yeah, practical jokes don't end in death. Usually. Okay.
Oh, and Snape thought that James was in on it as well.
James thought that, exactly, Snape thought that James was in on it. Okay. But we're never told that they made a fool out of him. Playing a practical joke on somebody isn't necessarily making them look like a fool. But Harry is going to see the others make a fool out of him. One of them doesn't. Who's the one? Book 5. Which one doesn't make a fool out of Snape? It's Lupin. When Harry goes into those memories, and he sees James, and he sees Sirius, and they're being jackasses, what's Lupin doing? Sitting next to a tree, reading a book, kind of frowning. Okay, we're going to talk about that when we get to it. So, they make Peter Pettigrew reveal himself. He does. What does he do? He tries to suck up to Remus. He tries to suck up to Lupin. They're both like, you're talking to stone here, buddy. He finally turns to Harry. Okay? Sirius admits he had been secret keeper, but they changed. They switched at the last moment. And Lupin's like, yeah, I wonder, how come you didn't go crazy? Why didn't he go crazy in Azkaban? He wasn't guilty. He wasn't guilty. And that's what? That's not a happy thought. Dementors couldn't take that from him. Okay? That kept him focused. So, Remus and Sirius, apologize to each other. Forgive me. Sorry. Why? Because they both thought the other one turned James and Lily into Voldemort. Okay. Page 374. Pettigrew says, when he speaks to Harry, Harry, you look just like your father. James wouldn't have wanted me killed. James would have understood, Harry. James would have shown me mercy. Okay, James would have understood? What does that mean? James would have taken my logic and said, oh, I get it. No, James wouldn't have done that. James, would he have shown him mercy? Not the James we see in book 5. Maybe James matured a little bit before he died at the age of 21. Black and Lupin stride forward. They say, you sold Lily and James to Voldemort. Do you deny it? What could I have done? The Dark Lord, you have no idea. He has weapons you can't imagine. I was scared, Sirius. I was never brave like you and Remus and James. He who must not be named forced me. Liar. You'd been passing information to him for a year before. He was taking over everywhere. What was there to be gained by refusing him? What does he mean, what was there to be gained? What would I get out of it? That's what he means. Okay? Sirius. What was to be gained by fighting the most evil wizard who has ever existed? Now, notice how he kind of turns Peter's question on its head. Because when Sirius asks that question, it's rhetorical. Okay? Peter Pettigrew isn't asking a rhetorical question. What was there to be gained by refusing him? He's asking that seriously. What would be in it for me? Sirius turns that and says, what do you mean? What would be in it for you to refuse the most powerful and evil dark wizard who ever lived? Only innocent lives, Peter. He would have killed me. What's Sirius saying? Yes, we know. That's what you would have gained. Your death. Better to die, what? For a good cause than live for a bad one. Then you should have died rather than betray your friends. Notice he doesn't, you should have died rather than betray your friends, period, exclamation point. As we would have done for you. There's that idea of sacrifice. You should have died before you betray your friends. Voldemort's going to ask Dumbledore in book 5, or he's going to say to Dumbledore, nothing is worse than death. Dumbledore's going to say, that's where you're wrong, Tom. Many things are worse than death. Sacrificing your friends so you can live, that's worse than death, because it's not sacrifice. Okay? Lupin, you should have realized if Voldemort didn't kill you, we would. Bye, Peter, and Harry stops him. How does Harry stop him? He places himself in front of Pettigrew facing the wand. You can't kill him. Okay? So they agree to take Pettigrew upstairs. Snape's knocked out. And it's like nobody has thought what time of the month it is. And they go out and there's clouds and then the clouds move. And golly gee, it's a super blood, blue moon kind of a thing. So they get attacked by the Dementors. The Dementors are repelled. They go on up to the castle. And Harry is there. Harry and Hermione are there in the hospital room with Dumbledore talking with him. And Dumbledore says, page 392, you must see that Professor Snape's version of events is far more convincing than yours. Because what's Harry's version of events? Peter Pettigrew isn't really dead. He's been a rat for the last 15 years, sorry. And he's been living with Ron. And Sirius Black is actually good, and he didn't kill all those people. And Snape's not nice, But you believe us. Yes, says Dumbledore, but I have no power to make other men see the truth. Or to overrule the Minister of Magic. Is that true? I mean, he can't legally overrule the Minister of Magic. What could he do? Imperio. You think Fudge is able to throw off an Imperious charm? I don't. Really, really don't. Okay? But that wouldn't be making them see the truth, right? So, Harry had expected Dumbledore to pull some amazing solution out of thin air, like magic, like a rabbit out of a hat. Dumbledore says, we need time. Hint, hint, Hermione. She's, and he tells her about how much. Okay? So, we're going to skip a bunch. Hermione pulls out of her shirt the time turner. She turns it 3 times, and they go back about 3 hours, I think it is. Or is it 6 hours? Somewhere around there, in time. And they go down to Hagrid's hut, and they see themselves come down to Hagrid's hut. Okay. They rescue Buckbeak. They stay off to the woods. They see themselves run out of Hagrid's hut. They see Sirius Black attack them. They see them go into the Whomping Willow. They wait. They see them come out of the see themselves come out of the Whomping Willow. Harry and Hermione do. And Hermione's like, remember, Harry, we can't be seen. Why? Why can't the Harry and Hermione that go back in time be seen by the Harry and Hermione in that backwards time? Time paradox. Might kill themselves, might change history. Well, of course you're going to change history. Okay? This is the problem. Anytime, I don't care who it is, could be the best damn writer in the world, tries to deal with time travel. If you can use a time turner, because she does not address it in this book, if you can use a time turner and go back 3 hours, couldn't they go back further? What would be a good time to go back to? When Voldemort killed his parents. Why not trip him outside the cottage door, Put him in a full body bind, sneak up behind him. Since Harry can't do Avada Kedavra, put him in a full body bind and, call the cops. Why not warn his parents? Somehow. Send an owl. Okay? Could they go back farther than that? Could they go back to, I don't know, let's jump up to book 6. Go back to the orphanage and have Tom accidentally fall and get killed. Have the other kids accidentally beat the living daylights out of him? Could they go back even farther to when Marauder has gotten pregnant? Abort him? Could they go back even farther to Salazar Slytherin? If you've got a mechanism for going back in time, you can go back in time to whenever you want, when it's not specified that there are any laws to it. Now, later on, I think it's in Pottermore, might be an interview, Rowling said, she came up with some rules that you can't go back in time a certain amount.
Yeah, she also destroyed all of the. She comes out in an interview later and says that she absolutely regrets inventing the time turner, and that's why she destroyed all of them in book 5.
She destroyed all of them in book 5?
Well, until you get to Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. But yeah, in the Department of Mysteries, they destroy all of them.
I don't remember them being destroyed. I remember them going in the time room, but I don't remember them being destroyed or hearing that the Ministry of Magic does actually destroy them. But yeah, and then you get the I won't even talk about that.
And what's funny in the movie, it says that she can only go back 24 hours.
Yep. So they come out. Harry realizes who it was who stopped the Dementors. It was himself. Okay. So we're going to jump forward to Dumbledore coming back in. How much time do we have? Yeah. So, Sirius escapes. Who does Snape blame?
Harry.
On what evidence?
No.
He's always guilty. He always breaks the rules. He always gets off, you know. And Fudge is like, come on, Snape, you're losing it. Keep it together, man. Okay? So, Sirius escapes, Buckbeak escapes, and Harry has his debriefing with Dumbledore. He sees Lupin on his way to the debriefing. Lupin says he's leaving. Why is he leaving? Snape accidentally let slip that he was a werewolf, and Dumbledore's getting letters, and Lupin says this is the best thing. Page 425. Dumbledore says, why so miserable, Harry? You should be very proud of yourself after last night. It didn't make any difference. Pettigrew got away. Dumbledore, what? Stop. What do you mean it didn't make any difference? You helped uncover the truth. You saved an innocent man from a terrible fate. Yeah, but he helped uncover the truth, but nobody knows, right? Who knows the truth? That would be Harry, Hermione, they've told Ron, Dumbledore, Sirius. Snape, but he doesn't believe it. Actually, Snape was knocked out. He didn't hear all that conversation. Okay? So, Harry mentions Trelawney's prediction. And Dumbledore says, you know, I think that's brought her total accurate predictions to 2. I should give her a raise. Mm-hmm. That makes it my fault if Voldemort comes back. Why? Who's the servant who's been chained for 12 years? Pettigrew? Where is it? Don't say any names.
I've never thought about that.
It might be somebody else.
Well,
It might be somebody.
we'll talk about it.
it later.
I have opinions about that.
Okay? Might be somebody else. Dumbledore. It does not, Harry. Notice what Harry's saying. If Voldemort comes back, it's my fault. Why? Because his servant escaped. Does not. Hasn't your experience with the Time Turner taught you anything, Harry? Consequences of our actions are always so complicated, so diverse, that predicting the future is very difficult. I mean, look at Trelawney, Harry. You did a very noble thing in saving Pettigrew's life. Yeah, but if he helps Voldemort back to power, he owes his life to you. What's Dumbledore getting at? What is Harry trying to? He's not intentionally doing this. He's doing it with his words and with his ideas. What's Harry trying to take from Peter Pettigrew? Agency. Free will. Harry is saying, because I saved Peter Pettigrew, therefore, it's my fault Voldemort comes back. Does Peter Pettigrew have to go back to Voldemort? No, he doesn't. He has freedom of choice. When one wizard, Dumbledore goes on, Pettigrew owes his life to you. You sent Voldemort a deputy who is in your debt. When one wizard saves another wizard's life, it creates a certain bond between them. I don't think Voldemort's going to want that, Harry. Especially to have a servant who's in debt to you. Harry, I don't want a connection with you. You know, that's what he thinks. He says, magic at its deepest is most impenetrable, Harry. Trust me, the time may come when you will be very glad you saved Pettigrew's life. Now, I usually teach this long after we finish Lord of the Rings. But it's like Rowling is channeling Gandalf there, where he talks to Frodo about Gollum. You'll see it when we come to it. And he tells Harry, your father would have saved Pettigrew too. Harry, I thought I saw my dad last night. I thought he was the one who conjured the Patronus. Dumbledore, you look like him. You think the dead we love ever truly leave us, Harry? Your father is alive in you, shows himself most plainly when you have need of him. How else could you have conjured up that Patronus? In other words, Harry, your father is alive in you. I think this is J.K. Rowling's way of assuaging her sorrow over her mother's death. This is how it helps her deal with that loss. Okay? So, we get to the end of the year, and Seamus Finnegan wonders, 429, wonder who we'll have for Defense Against the Dark Arts next year, right? Dean Thomas, maybe a vampire. I mean, we had a werewolf, okay? Harry's also thinking of Trelawney's prediction, and let's see here. They're on their way home, that is on the train, and an owl comes and starts banging on the window. Harry lets it in, gives the owl to Ron, I think, and it's a letter from Sirius. Dear Harry, I hope this finds you before you reach your aunt and uncle. I don't know whether they're used to owl posts. Buckbeak and I are in hiding. I won't tell you where, in case this owl falls into the wrong hands. I have some doubt about his reliability, but he's the best I could find. He did seem eager for the job. I believe the Dementors are still searching for me. They haven't a hope of finding me here. Don't know where he is. Planning to allow some muggles to glimpse me soon, a long way from Hogwarts. And he has what? Hogsmeade permission slip. Okay. He also apologizes. Yes, I was the big dog you saw in Magnolia Crescent the night you left your aunt and uncle's house last year. In other words, he did see a grim. Just not the grim that what's-her-name's talking about. So, does Harry have a happy thought now? Because what was his happy thought as he was making his way up to Hogwarts from the Shrieking Shack? What did Sirius ask him? Yeah, you want to move in? I mean, I understand if you don't want to leave your aunt. Here's like, are you smoking? What are you crazy? Yes, I want to move in. Okay. Thus far, the first 3 books have been relatively light. The first 2 lighter. The third one's a little bit darker. I mean, you get Dementors, you're into dark territory. Next book, we see our first death. And then they kind of start racking up from that point on. And it takes a much, much darker turn. All right. Have as much of Goblet of Fire as you can read. Just, we won't have a quiz like over the entire thing. We'll probably have a quiz, I don't know, Thursday that might be over most of it.